This hunter was on top of him, drowning him.
As video games become more and more expensive to make, requiring larger teams and many years of development, even some well-loved gaming franchises get pushed aside. In this video, I'm going to talk about 5 video game franchises that were once on the tip of gamers' tongues, but now seem to have been forgotten about. The first Spyro game, Spyro the Dragon, was developed by Insomniac Games and launched in the US on the 9th of September 1998, making Spyro 26 years old in 2024. Since 1998, there have been over 10 mainline Spyro titles, along with a couple of mobile games. However, like many gamers, I waited with bated breath for news of a new mainline Spyro game to celebrate Spyro's 25th anniversary last year. But this milestone went by without even a glimmer of a new entry in the franchise. Spyro the Dragon was the first game I can truly remember loving as a kid, and I have fond memories renting or borrowing both Spyro 2 and 3 many times back when renting games was actually a thing. For those who are unfamiliar with the Spyro franchise, let me introduce you to what made these games so fantastic. For starters, who doesn't think the idea of dragons aren't cool? And then, who doesn't want to play as a fire-breathing, sassy purple dragon called Spyro, defeating idiotic enemies, travelling to wacky worlds, and overall saving the Dragon Kingdom? The enemy designs and side characters are so well developed and likeable, along with one of the best video game soundtracks I've ever heard.
Say, is it just me, or is she kinda cute when she's angry?
Spyro hasn't been completely forgotten since the release of the Reignited Trilogy in 2018. Spyro, along with other characters from the franchise, have featured in Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled and Crash Team Rumble. However, these appearances just left me wanting more solely Spyro content. My expectations after the release of the Crash Bandicoot Sane Trilogy and then a brand new title in Crash 4 was that Spyro would receive the same treatment, i.e. the Spyro Reignited Trilogy, followed by a brand new Spyro game. However, this did not happen. Speaking of Crash 4, however, this game just showed how creative developers can be when taking inspiration from the original games, which had significant constraints due to the hardware of the PlayStation 1, and then going all out with brand new ideas. Spyro 3 especially had some great features such as the skateboarding challenge and multiple playable characters you could rescue and then play as in their own dedicated levels. I think both of these could be greatly expanded in a new title along with many other new ideas. I truly hope that a development studio is working on a new Spyro game as I make this video, but recent news about Spyro Reignited developer Toys for Bob experiencing many layoffs and now also becoming an indie studio perhaps throws a spanner in the works.
It goes away.
In the infamous games, the main characters inadvertently acquire the ability to absorb special powers like a conduit. In the second release, Cole is a conduit of electricity which enables him to zap enemies, wield a lightning saber called the Amp, throw electric grenades and hover using static thrusters. Cole will also gain many other powers throughout the course of the game, but which powers you unlock will be influenced by your actions. The storyline of the infamous games is a linear path. However, the player can choose to be a good citizen by saving members of the public or making selfless acts, which results in positive karma and unlocks associated good karma powers. Sometimes though, being a good guy is overrated, so you can be a tyrant if you wish. What's not to like about being a superhero with options, right?
Right?
Well, on the PS5 there is even more to love because the latest 2 games, Infamous Second Son and First Light, both run at 4K resolution and 60 frames per second. And it looks clean AF. I went back to replay Second Son before making this video and had to stop myself getting sidetracked messing around with all the powers you have by the end of the game. From the beginning of the PS3 generation into the first few years of the PS4, there were many games where you played as a create your own hero character. Examples such as Prototype, Borderlands and Saints Row 4 come to mind, but this type of game seems to have declined over the last decade, and I'd personally like to see an up-to-date take on this type of game. especially since video game technology and game engines have massively advanced, which could enable many more superpowers than may have been possible 10 to 15 years ago. With the signature colour palette of pearl white, high contrast colours and red highlights, Mirror's Edge is one of the most visually distinctive games I can think of. Having a cool aesthetic is worthy of merit alone, but it's the parkour gameplay of Mirror's Edge that makes it stand out from the crowd. Games like Prince of Persia: Sands of Time and Free Running, which both predate Mirror's Edge, feature elements of parkour or free running from a third-person perspective, but controls felt clunky, animations looked awkward and lacking in fluidity. Using a first-person perspective and focusing more on the momentum of the character massively increased the immersion of Mirror's Edge compared to its predecessors and even games who tried to copy it. The high contrast colours used to create the game's world, along with signature red highlights, enable for great level readability for beginner players, and just something colourful for the speedrunning community to glance at for half a second. In the same fashion as most good racing games, Mirror's Edge offered easier routes for the general audience to complete the game and enjoy the parkour experience and storyline, but also provided plenty of room for exploring for the more advanced players. It's unclear whether Mirror's Edge was a commercial success or not, but the game definitely gathered a cult audience and became somewhat of a darling game amongst the big EA juggernaut franchises of the time. Despite this, Mirror's Edge did get a sequel 8 years after its original release, called Mirror's Edge Catalyst. Catalyst expanded from the original's more linear focus levels to an open world playground. While this was arguably a significant increase in production quality, with refined mechanics and more possibilities, the end result felt less curated and comparatively lifeless. The open world content just wasn't as exciting as my pre-launch expectations, and I think this was probably the opinion of many other gamers. I still enjoyed playing through the main story missions and would love to see what a creative team on a small scale could achieve another 8 years on from Catalyst. There was definitely a gap in the market for games with free-running mechanics post Mirror's Edge Catalyst, and titles such as Ghostrunner have filled some of that gap. However, I think there is still room for another Mirror's Edge game in the near future.
You have no idea how sickening this is to us. Forced to live here, alongside the people who destroyed our planet.
Back in what I think was the golden era of first-person shooters, the crown for best FPS was hotly contested by titles such as Call of Duty, Battlefield, Halo 3, Killzone 2, and many others. As a kid, I often viewed the Killzone franchise as Sony's answer to Halo, despite being extremely different FPS games. I wasn't stupid. Killzone wasn't as successful or widely liked as the competition, but I enjoyed that each of the big publishers and platform holders each had a flagship shooter that catered for a slightly different itch within the FPS genre. In 2024, there is Call of Duty and, not really much else. I have my fingers crossed that Ubisoft's X-Defiant provides some much needed competition to Call of Duty, but some more Killzone will be much appreciated. Most first-person shooters nowadays are known for their multiplayer component, but the Killzone franchise also had pretty great single-player campaigns too. I can fondly remember playing through Killzone 3's campaign with the PlayStation Move sharpshooter gun, which was genuinely super cool. You reloaded your gun with a pump action on the sharpshooter gun itself. Plus you could perform melee attacks by flipping the gun to either side. Since the sharpshooter required 2 PlayStation Move controllers to make it function, the gun had impressive vibration, resulting in the closest to VR experience I've ever personally had. I would be foolish not to mention that the Helghast army had some of the sickest looking designs I've ever seen in video games. The neon red eyes on the Helghast helmets truly looked menacing, especially in a game as dark and dingy as Killzone 2, where they really popped.
Great. I'm going in.
Of the 5 franchises mentioned in this video, I wouldn't be surprised if you haven't heard of the Sly games. The Sly games often reminded me of the Spyro games due to the collectathon type gameplay. However, rather than playing as a purple dragon, You play as Sly Cooper, a raccoon thief backed up by his best friends, Bentley the Brains and Murray the Muscle. Sly's ancestors had a successful history as master thieves, but just before Sly is due to inherit his ancestors' book of knowledge, the Thievius Raccoonus, the book is stolen by 5 master criminals, who each take a piece of the book to their corner of the globe. Sly is determined to rebuild the book, which takes him on a globe-trotting adventure to steal back the lost pages and defeat the master criminals once and for all. The games are made up of multiple mini-levels where your goal is to collect the key by completing the level, while also collecting all of the clues to open each level's safe, which rewards Sly with new thief abilities. Each mini-level has a different theme, and each world features a boss battle much like the Spyro formula. In later games, many more unique challenges await as you take control of Bentley and Murray, who each have unique abilities. I just got the Platinum Trophy for Ratchet & Clank: A Rift Apart in roughly 20 hours and loved every minute of it. The advances in technology clearly enabled Insomniac to push the creativity of the gameplay in Ratchet & Clank to the limit, and I think the same could be said for a new Sly Cooper game too. If you've got any suggestions of franchises you'd like to see revived, I'm very interested to hear them in the comments, and thank you very much for watching this video.
I need to go after that ship. How can I get off planet?